honestly, it is unbelievable that we in 1972, just being up here and seeing how difficult this is and how hard the team is working. We do have a little bit of echo on your call. We'll try to turn it down when we're answering, but this is a magnificent accomplishment to be up here, to see the moon, to see the Earth, and to know that we are between those two celestial bodies, and you can see it when you look out the window. The Earth is almost in full eclipse, the moon is almost in full daylight, and the only way you could get that view is to be halfway between the two entities. It is truly awe-inspiring up here.
I think as we go into Easter Sunday, thinking about, all the cultures all around the world, whether you celebrate it or not, whether you believe in God or not, this is an opportunity for us to remember where we are, who we are, and that we are the same thing, and that we got to get through this together.
This is Artemis Mission Control at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. We have now reached exactly 3 days since the launch of Orion. You just heard the call to the crew that the solar arrays are in motion. Ahead of taking a photo, we're looking to get a picture of the crew in the windows of Orion. Photos are the priority of this event, so we'll stand by to see if we still have streaming, but regardless, we will be very excited to share those photos with you as soon as we possibly can. Make sure you follow NASA and NASA Artemis on all social media. That would be at NASA and at NASA Artemis.
Integrity Houston, our saws are in position to take this family portrait, so sometime in the next few minutes, we'd love to invite you to the windows to get it done. Thanks. All right, everybody, we're taking the picture, so say cheese and stay still for about 30 seconds while we perform this photography bracket from the saws.
Okay, we'll freeze in 3, 2, 1, mark.
The Integrated Communications Officer, or INCO, is helping take this picture of the crew aboard the Orion spacecraft, now all smiling in the windows of the place they've called home. We've had some great views both inside the spacecraft as well as outside, but this is the first time that we're getting to see the crew and the spacecraft in the same photo. As mentioned previously, we are taking pictures right now, so the streaming quality isn't as great. We look forward to sharing these pictures as soon as we possibly can, and make sure you follow NASA and NASA Artemis on social media.
It's taking a little longer than we thought. Thanks for holding. All right, everybody can relax. That was great. Thank you so much. We all look forward to getting your Christmas card come December. Thanks.
On your screen, a live view of the Orion spacecraft looking at the moon, our destination, now 96,575 miles away. On the left side of your screen is Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, and to his right, NASA astronaut Christina Cook. During this demonstration, the crew will be able to manually pilot Orion once again and test its 6 degree of freedom and 3 degree of freedom. If you look closely in the background, you can see NASA astronaut and pilot Victor Glover filming part of this demonstration.
All right, and just giving you some handling qualities here for the yaw. Everything was nominal. I noted that with this warp mount, it does have some play in it as we knew, and so just applying some downward force to try and make sure you don't get coupling is required, but that's fine, that's workable. And then we had a little bit of coupling and roll.
Copy all.
And Jenny, we are going to switch pilots now. This will be myself in the seat and making comments.
Copy. We're following the swap. Thank you.
And currently on your screen, you can see CSA astronaut Jeremy Hansen and NASA astronaut Christina Cook swapping places as they continue through the manual piloting developmental flight test objective. Again, they are performing several different attitude maneuvers to compare 6 degrees of freedom and 3 degrees of freedom attitude control on the spacecraft. 6 degrees of freedom refers to the 6 ways that a spacecraft moves. There are 3 translational degrees of freedom: forward, backward, up and down, and left and right, and 3 rotational degrees of freedom, which are roll, pitch, and yaw.
Okay, I'm going to make a comment on the pitch up. There was some roll there. I tried a different technique where I actually kind of held the orb mount at the high end of its play rather than pressing down at the low end since I was pitching up. But I think that actually made it a little bit harder to keep the roll coupling out. So for pitch down, I'll go ahead and hold it at the bottom of its play. So in this, again, in the direction, in this case, of the pitch.
Copy all.
And Houston, we have some Earth and Moon viewers here who are putting in requests for different motions so that they can see things in the window.
We're seeing them in the camera views, and we're enjoying it. Look at those scientists go.
Not too long ago, they did surpass the 2/3 mark as they continue to close in on the moon, and they are expected to make that closest approach and their lunar flyby on flight day 6 coming up on April 6th.
Absolutely. One of the neat things that I'm seeing right now is in the sort of largest Mare field, the one that sort of makes up most of the very western side of what you can see on the near side. There is a giant, it's much more obvious now that one of those Mares is a huge basin because it's just right now it's kind of at the 1 o'clock position, and I don't know the name of that big one. It's basically just west of where Serientatis and Tranquillitatis are, but it is phenomenal. And the moon we are looking at is not the moon you see from Earth whatsoever. And Victor is absolutely mesmerized by Oriental through the 400 lens. He says that not only in Oriental, but all around the basin, you can actually see the terrain. It's not an albedo change. It's not shadows. You can actually just tell that they are terrain features of the multi-ringed crater there.
Christina, we copied all of Victor's Oriental observations. That sounds amazing. And we think, based on your description of the basin that you saw, that is Imbrium.
Yes, that sounds right. I've never noticed that Imbrium has such a distinctive high albedo ring defining it. Also worth mentioning, we do apparently have a full moon. We can't detect any terminator at all. It looks like full limb all the way around.
And Jackie, we got Jeremy on there just for a minute before his PAO event. He's just got to look at this. As soon as I put my hands on the 400, it's just, you know, I'm not one for hyperbole, but it's the only thing I could come up with. Just seeing Tycho, there's mountains to the north. You can see Copernicus, Rainier Gamma. It's just everything from the training, but in 3 dimension and absolutely unbelievable. This is incredible.
Kathy Moonjoy.
And Houston, I can tell you that Christina now has the 400 millimeter, and she also is the queen of hyperbole. It's incredible.
Wow.
Kathy Copy. Christina doing her best read impression at the window.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one kind of correction to what I mentioned before. I do think that we have a terminator. It is on the far western edge. It's not actually a limb. It's on the terminator all along what it's basically almost in the same places where you would imagine the limb to be. But it's very high albedo as you would expect from the far side, and you can see the topography all along the terminator. It's awesome. Houston, integrity for altitude reference change moment.
Go ahead.
Jackie, with that incredible viewing behind us of our destination in the near term, we hereby change our DU PFD altitude reference from Earth to Moon. We are currently 76,362 nautical miles from the Moon. And from Earth, we had been 168,000 nautical miles.
Houston copies.
This is Mission Control Houston. We are at a mission elapsed time of 3 days, 14 hours, 50 minutes. The Artemis 2 crew is currently in their sleep period aboard the Orion spacecraft. Their sleep period is set to conclude in 2 hours, 24 minutes and counting. Currently, the Orion spacecraft is 209,000 miles and counting away from Earth and about 70,000 miles away from the Moon. We will continue to provide you live mission coverage, but for now, we will leave you with these two beautiful views we are seeing from Orion's solar array wings. On the right side of your image, you are seeing a Earth crescent, and on the left side of your screen, you are seeing the Moon. Very exciting, and enjoy the views. Welcome to the Artemis Flight Control Room here in Mission Control Houston. Joining us now is Najud Moranci. She is the Deputy Associate Administrator for Strategy, Architecture, and NASA's Exploration Systems Mission Directorate. A mouthful.
It is. There's a lot of words in that title.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you here, and I do know that you've worked at NASA for a really long time. You started working with Orion. You've been part of our mission architecture team. So how does it feel seeing all those years of planning and work coming to life with this mission?
It's been pretty incredible. I mean, I've been working on Orion, part of building it through the early milestones, part of working with the European Service Module team as they were first just an idea before they were hardware. So, I mean, to start seeing things actually fly, I mean, that's why you're in this business. We do this so we can see people go to the moon, and I can't believe it's happening. So I'm still in pinch me mode because it's amazing that we're finally seeing it.
And this mission has felt like pinch me for me every step of the way. So it's been really exciting to see the crew up in orbit, to be in deep space. So tell us a little bit about how Artemis 2 is preparing us for future Artemis missions.
Yeah, so I think it's been mentioned a lot, but Artemis 2 is a test flight. So this being the first flight of the crew systems, all of the things the crew need. It's our first time doing, humans beyond the moon coming up very shortly. But like the test flight also includes what's happening on the ground, the controllers, the preparations, the getting it ready, because we need to buy down these risks so that the next systems that come along, the human landing systems, the communications networks around the moon, all of those things become the next flight test objectives. So each one of these is a step that progresses us through ever more challenging missions, and you reduce risk with every step you take, and that's what we're doing with Artemis 2.
So this truly is a test flight, and we are learning a lot about orbital mechanics, which I understand is your specialty.
I've dabbled in it for many years.
Just a tad.
Just a tad.
Well, orbital mechanics helps us understand a lot of how the vehicle's trajectory and our flight map is going to be. So we did TLI, translunar injection, on flight day 2. And since then, we've been planned on the timeline to do these outbound trajectory correction maneuvers. There are 3 that were on the flight plan. We did not do the first 2. We have a third one that's scheduled for coming up today. Tell us why we did not need to do the other 2.
So the trajectory correction maneuvers are planned in, and they're really to cover the dispersions. So if you add up all the little errors across the systems, right? If your burn doesn't quite cut off at exactly the right second, or your navigation has slight errors in it, all of those things add up, and so you get what's called dispersions. So that's the amount you can be off from your ideal trajectory. So the correction maneuvers are really to take you back to your ideal and close that gap. So the longer you let them go without doing them, the bigger your dispersions grow. Now, because you didn't have to do the first 2, that means that we were far more accurate, or we were flying sort of right down the middle of the envelope. So we didn't need to do those burns, and you may still need to do them. And so even if you don't have to do the outbound ones, you may still need the return ones because the flyby may have dispersion. So it's all a matter, we're talking very, very fine control, trying to exactly hit the lunar flyby altitude, the Earth entry corridor when the crew comes home. So you're really just taking out all the errors with those correction burns. Sometimes you need them, sometimes you don't. It just depends on how little you were off along the way.
So we may see some return or RTCs coming up.
Correct. So the flyby will also have dispersions and errors in it, so those could still be needed on the way back to Earth because you're trying to hit that very precise entry corridor.
Awesome. And so let's talk a little bit about flyby since you mentioned it. Looking up at our big board, we are 1 day, 4 hours, 23 minutes and counting from passing the Apollo distance record. And actually, the Artemis 2 mission, or the flight, is flying a little further away from the moon than Artemis 1 did. So for those of us watching, as we begin our flyby operations, the moon will actually be the size of a baseball at arm's length distance and then grow to the size of a basketball. So tell us why the Artemis 2 lunar flyby is at 4,800 nautical miles and not closer.
So first, Artemis 1 flew much further than this on the moon because it was in a distant retrograde orbit, but this will be the furthest humans have gone on the far side of the moon. And we targeted this altitude to put it in the middle of the crew day. So if we'd taken the shortest path around the moon, it would have been during crew sleep, or the crew would have had to wake up, or it would have had to sleep shift them a lot. So when we early planning on this mission, we simply moved the altitude a little further away, so it would hit right 4 days out, 4 days back, right in the middle of the crew day, because we sent them all the way to the moon. They should get to look out the window and do all the amazing science while they're there.
Yeah, there's a lot of science, and we heard yesterday from the crew, Christina describing some of the features on the moon, and Victor just in awe of them. The science team here was definitely geeking out.
I'm geeking out. I mean, I'm just so excited for what we're going to see in the next 24 hours and all the fantastic work they're doing. And one of the amazing things about this altitude, right, the moon actually moves relative to the Earth. It's not a constant distance. So when we planned this, we did not intend for it to set the record. We set the altitude based on what the mission need was.
Right.
But because it's coincidence when the moon is furthest or near the furthest point from Earth, they will set the record from the Earth distance for humans. And they should be able to hold that record for quite some time, because when we start actually doing lunar landings, we'll be doing all much closer passes to the moon. So really fortuitous what's going on here. Can't be more excited.
And just for the viewers, understanding, if we had launched after April 2nd, we would not have broken that record. Is that right?
That is my understanding. That I mean, it's very launch day dependent, where the moon is, how far we're flying, and we would not have managed to pass the record later in the launch period.
So I want to take a moment to take a look at the show and tell that you've brought for us here. We have a couple of props for you all to see. A little Orion. Would you like me to give you a hand in holding anything?
You can hold Orion.
Okay, great. So we have Orion here. Can you show us a little bit about some of the burns and what flyby would actually look like?
Yeah, so the free return trajectory is very important. It was one of the safety features we built into this mission, because Orion doesn't need to do any major burns after we left Earth with that TLI burn. So all the correction maneuvers could be done even with the smallest RCS engines, the little attitude control thrusters. These are the RCS. These are the auxiliary engines here.
And that's our main engine.
And that's the main engine, yes.
Sorry, I was not on mute. I was not talking to the world. So this is our main engine that helped us do TLI.
Correct.
Okay.
So with just the little correction maneuvers, you can do those with all the engines. So if there was any main engine problem, we would have lots of backup on this one. So that's why we're doing the free return. No big burns around the moon. But what's actually happening, and so here's a little moon, not to scale. So if the viewer is the Earth, as Orion traveled away from Earth, we're coming away from Earth, right? The Earth has been slowing down Orion the whole time, and the moon has actually been over here, headed towards Orion. We aimed in front of Orion just like a football being thrown in front of the receiver.
Okay.
As Orion is doing the flyby, we're passing to the far side. The moon's still traveling, and that's the tug, the gravity that's going to start pulling Orion back to Earth. So the moon's traveling, Orion's getting pulled back, and the moon keeps going, and Orion will miss it and start heading back to the Earth. So that's the free return flyby, is actually using the moon's gravity to tug Orion and start sending Orion back to the Earth.
Exactly, and that's a great point here. We are entering the lunar sphere of influence on Flight Day 5, which is at the end of the cruise day today during their pre-sleep. So this is what you are talking about. The moon's gravitational pull is stronger than the Earth's?
Well, it's when Orion starts to be affected by the moon. So yes, so the moon is starting to pull Orion towards it as we're getting closer and closer. So the sphere of influence means the lunar gravity is overtaking the Earth's gravity, and that's exactly what we're aiming for when we planned all the trajectories, is for this precise flyby to use that lunar gravity to send Orion back home again. So that's the lunar sphere of influence. Orion has technically been under Earth's influence the entire time, and the Earth has been slowing down Orion as it's been departing Earth this whole time. So lots going on here, all stuff this is the math that you kids are supposed to do in school to make sure this happens.
So physics, really important, math, really important. Now, you, as I mentioned at the top of our interview, you've been doing this for a long time. You've been doing a lot of the planning and preparations, whether it was supporting the Orion program itself or into mission architecture. How does it feel seeing some of your life's work come to life?
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, we get into this business so that we can fly things. And I mean, from when I worked on the space station to Orion to now, the whole goal is exploration and being able to go beyond and bring some positive light to humanity. So seeing these things happen, it really gets you at your core. And that's why we're all here and spend long hours and extra nights working to make sure this happens.
Yeah, we've been here for, I don't know what day it is anymore, like Reed. Just, it's Sunday. Happy Easter Sunday to those of you who are celebrating. But Najud, thank you so much for joining us here in Mission Control. And we will go back to our live views. For now, this is Mission Control Houston. This is Mission Control Houston. We are at a mission elapsed time of 3 days, 15 hours, 23 minutes, and counting of the Artemis 2 mission. Currently, the Artemis 2 crew is asleep aboard Orion. Speaking of Orion, Orion is about 210,000 miles and counting away from Earth, and about 69,000 miles and counting away from the Moon. We'll continue here providing live coverage of the mission. But for now, let's take a look back at the Flight Day highlights from Flight Day 4. This is Mission Control Houston from inside the Artemis Flight Control Room here at the Johnson Space Center. We are at a mission elapsed time of 2 days, 17 hours, 58 minutes, and counting. The Orbit 3 team of flight controllers is currently on shift in mission control, and we are gearing up for crew wake at a mission elapsed time of 2 days, 18 hours, as well as a handover to our Orbit 1 team of flight controllers. The Orion spacecraft is currently 168,000 miles and counting away from Earth and 110,000 miles away from the Moon. While the crew has been asleep, we have received some downlinked images from Integrity, so let's take a look at them. Here we can see Commander Reed Weissman through Orion's window. We can see him looking out, watching the Earth grow smaller. And we're all reminded that every single giant leap begins with leaving something familiar behind. Let's go over to our next image. And there we have Mission Specialist Christina Cook looking at our blue marble that's giving us some perspective on humanity's innate need to explore. Very inspirational photos coming down from the crew while we wait for them to wake up in just under a minute from now. For now, this is Mission Control Houston.
Good morning. There's a couple items I did want to talk with you before we got too much of the day going, so if you had a couple minutes, I had a few big picture words.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Big picture today, we have canceled OTC-2 burn. We are replacing it with some maneuvers and a checkout of the wastewater dump. So at 18:35, about 30 minutes from now, we're going to maneuver to an attitude that will put the sun onto that wastewater vent line. We have increased the heater temperatures on the nozzle and the lines themselves, and we're hoping that if the problem is the freezing of the vent lines, why we couldn't do the wastewater dump last night, then this will give us a chance to see if we were able to solve that.
This is Artemis Mission Control. Mission elapsed time, 2 days, 18 hours, 45 minutes into the flight of Artemis 2, the first flight of humans aboard the Orion spacecraft. You're getting a live look outside Orion right now. The teams are maneuvering the spacecraft in the solar array wings. As you heard earlier, we are not having the outbound trajectory correction burn today. This was deemed unnecessary and has no impact to the mission or the lunar flyby. The translunar injection burn put the vehicle on the correct path back on flight day 2. And therefore, the team and Mission Control agreed that we could skip both outbound trajectory correction burn 1 as well as that second burn today. Skipping that second burn also allows the team to continue troubleshooting some of the universal waste management system issues that cropped up last night. There was a wastewater dump planned last night, a very routine and regularly scheduled action, and it terminated after only dumping 3%. So the wastewater tank is not currently full. It is at 64% with a limit of 80%, but the crew was instructed to use backup collection devices overnight if they needed. Part of the reason for reorienting the spacecraft today is to allow it to be in the sun, specifically where the primary vent nozzle is. They are hoping that spending some time in the sun will help thaw out potential ice that may be on that vent nozzle. spacecraft. Our crew just woke up. That wake up coming at 11:35 a.m. Central Time.
We have a small request for you guys. With this attitude that we're using for the bake-out, we're getting the sun on the window shades, and we're a little worried about them heating up too much. We would like to request that you please remove the window shades. We understand that will make it awfully bright for you guys, and we want to encourage you to use a T-shirt in the cabin or something similar if needed to block out that sunlight. But the shades will help us with the temperature constraint on the windows.